What's going on, guys? It's Jake here, and this is going to be episode 17 of What's in Your Portfolio. Already made it to 17 episodes. That's kind of a lot of episodes, and also a lot of submissions. So thank you guys for sending in your portfolios. But anyways, in this series, I take a look at subscriber/viewer submitted portfolios that you guys send in. And if you want to send in, feel free to check out the description. There's going to be notes on how to do so. But anyways, getting right into it. So I'm going to be showing two portfolios here. The first one is from Vincent, who sent it in on Instagram like a long time ago, actually, like back in March. And then the second one's going to be from Bill, who sent me an email. And by the way, if you are submitting them, it actually turns out to be a lot easier for me if you do it over email, because it's very, very difficult to organize Instagram DMs. But anyways, getting into it. So I'm going to pull up Vincent's portfolio first here, and it should be up right about now. And anyways, his portfolio over here is actually, I think he said this is worth like Fidelity or something like that, but this is basically just his overall portfolio, and I'm actually made his portfolio for him in M1 Finance because this is just simply screenshots. I can actually like look at these stocks or anything like that to show them to you guys a little bit more in depth. So I'm going to head over to M1 Finance now and actually show you each individual holding a little bit better at the percents that he actually allocated them in his portfolio. So Face ID works, and if we go over to his portfolio that I made for him, what's in your portfolio submission, and I guess it'd be like a WEEP, a WIYP WEEP submission. But anyways, he has 9 total holdings. He has a very small dividend yield because it's, I guess, more targeted on growth stocks, I suppose. And if we go over to his actual targets, the first one, Amazon at 30%. Amazon, obviously, or may not be so obvious, has no dividend yield, so we head over to them right here. Amazon, it's currently almost $2,000, so when he actually put his portfolio in, which is around March, assuming he owns somewhat of the same stocks, I was kind of getting a gist that this might be more of like a longer term investing strategy, but I don't know how long he's actually been holding onto these stocks. But either way, Amazon, I think they're actually a pretty solid stock to own. If you're looking for a safer growth stock, I think Amazon's definitely a perfect one for that. After that is Apple. He's got Apple at about 22% of his portfolio or so, and also to note, his portfolio was right around $10,000. But either way, Apple, again, Apple, really solid company. I really don't think you could go wrong investing in a company like them. I personally invest in Apple. I think they're going to do extremely well over the next 5 to 10 years or so. And if you look at just the top 4 stocks in his portfolio very quickly, goes Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet. All 4 of these are like obviously 4 tech-based stocks, and I don't think it's like it's because, all right, well, just to make this kind of clear, he owns, let's see, if you added up 30, 50, 60, 70+% of his portfolio solely in tech stocks. And those 4 right there, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, are 4 of the biggest tech stocks, and not only the biggest tech stocks, but also the biggest companies in the world. So yes, you could say his portfolio, just looking at it from that aspect, is not very diverse. Like, he's literally only owning 4 tech stocks. But at the same exact time, Amazon and Apple are technically, like, they are very tech-oriented companies, but in an aspect they're not tech-based, because Amazon is more of a service and Apple sells a product, and Microsoft and Google are definitely more tech-based companies. They're in the tech sector, but Apple and Amazon are not. So you could look at it from that perspective as well. And also, I think it's important to note, like I said, these are 4 of the biggest companies in the world at the time of making this video. I think it actually goes like Microsoft 1, Apple 2, and then Google and Amazon are somewhere in there as well. So these are the biggest companies in the world that have reached beyond just the simple, like, Apple selling iPhone, Amazon having Amazon.com, Microsoft selling, you know, all their things, and Google having Google. So obviously, because they are such huge companies, they do a little bit more than just focusing on one sector. But anyways, next one, Microsoft. Microsoft, probably one of my favorite stocks right now. It is the biggest company in the world at the time of making this video. It's also important to note that I own this stock as well. I really like them a lot. If I was to own one technology stock, it would probably be Microsoft. And actually, let's see what M1 Finance. Okay, so M1 Finance puts Apple in technology, and then they also put, okay, they put Amazon in consumer cyclical, retail, all right, apparel specialty. It's kind of interesting to put them in that. But they actually do categorize Apple in, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that either, and not that one. They do actually put Apple into the tech sector as well, because some people put them in like a more of a consumer sector. But either way, next one, he has 10% of his portfolio. Actually, I meant to say 10% 10% in Google or Alphabet. Google, again, is a very solid company. They don't have a dividend yield, but they are probably going to see some pretty decent growth, and they're also one of the biggest companies in the world, and they would, again, have to really mess up to kind of not do well in the future. Then the next one is Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. This one is one of the most basic ETFs out there you can own. It's one I personally own. I like it a lot because it kind of fits the bill for all the factors I look for in ETFs when I'm personally looking for them. Has to have a low expense ratio, has to be very diverse, and also has to follow like a set of stocks or an index that I actually like. So for example, with this one, it just simply mirrors the S&P 500, and you really can't go wrong with just investing in the S&P. After that is Coca-Cola. He's got that at 5% of his portfolio. Coca-Cola, pretty much definition of blue chip stock there. Coca-Cola, super solid company, and adds a little bit of depth and a little bit of defense to this portfolio with their dividend yield, but he's only got them at 5% of his portfolio. After that is Nike, and Nike's kind of an interesting one in this mix, so if I would have to guess, he probably chose Nike just simply because he likes them, and just they are a really solid stock as well, and a solid company overall. And then coming at the second last stock in this portfolio is Tesla. So this is definitely more of a speculative buy here. I personally won't invest in Tesla anytime soon. I don't really imagine me really ever investing in Tesla. I think they are way too risky. But if you are investing in Tesla, I said this in a video not too long ago, when you invest in them, you really have to have a long-term perspective in mind. You have to be investing, I think, in the long term for Tesla, because they're not a company that's probably going to make a profit in the next like even 5 years or so. Then, and also, go at me in the comment section with that right there. Oh, Tesla's going to be profitable next year. All right, we'll see. But anyways, and the last stock in his portfolio, Activision, he only had like 1 or 2 shares of them, so it ended up being like less than 1% of his portfolio actually. But I don't think you can do less than 1% in an M1 Finance pie when you're just making it. So Activision, Blizzard, they're actually been struggling somewhat recently. As you can see in the past year, they're down 37%. It's going to be very interesting to see what actually happens in the video game market because of the Fortnite effect. So basically, a lot of these companies like Activision, EA, Take-Two Interactive, some of the big guys, were pretty much selling video games for the past 20 years or so at $60 a piece. And now that Fortnite became the most popular game in the world by far and kind of blew out every game in the water, it'll be interesting to see, and Fortnite was absolutely free if you're unaware of that, it'd be interesting to see how Activision actually does. But anyways, looking at his portfolio overall, if this was my portfolio, and again, this isn't investing advice in any way whatsoever, I would personally, I actually don't think this is as bad of a portfolio as it might seem to some people because it's not very diverse, and he has a ton of weight, almost 70% of his portfolio in tech-based companies. But one thing I would change is I'd probably lower down Amazon and Apple a little bit and add that to Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. So maybe if you're going for a portfolio like this, maybe do like 20-25% in Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, or do about 15 in Vanguard or in VU, and then also do about 15 to 10% in another ETF that's somewhat similar, maybe one like Vanguard high dividend yielding ETF, and probably lower those percentages a little bit more. And I'm okay with, you know, having a little bit of speculation with Tesla or Activision. Activision was literally like less than 1% of his portfolio, and Tesla isn't a whole lot either. I like Coca-Cola, Nike, and I pretty much like every company in his portfolio besides Tesla right now. But anyways, that's it for this portfolio, so definitely let me know in the comment section what you think of this one. But moving on to the second one, which is also on M1 Finance, but I got it opened up in Google Chrome here. So this portfolio, if we scroll down to it, it's up 14% over the past year. And then he has 17 holdings, 0.01 expense ratio, and a 2.217 dividend yield. So obviously, as you can tell right away with this portfolio, it has a higher dividend yield, so perhaps he's going for more of a dividend-based investing strategy. And also he has a really low expense ratio, so that probably means he's holding some sort of fund in his portfolio. So the first one at 20% is Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. So again, I was just talking about this one. It's a really great ETF. I like it a lot. It's solid, it's diverse, low expense ratio. It fits the bill for a good ETF. After that is Walmart. So pretty much every other stock, as you can see in his portfolio here, is at 5%. So that's also a kind of interesting investing strategy, because the really nice part with an app and brokerage like M1 Finance is you have the ability to do fractional shares, but doing it so you can literally do it exactly at what percent you want every single one of these stocks like he did. So it's kind of an interesting investing strategy. But anyways, first one here, Walmart. I really like Walmart a lot. They were one of the few retail stocks I feel comfortable investing in. There's not a whole lot of brick and mortar companies I think are doing super well, but Walmart would actually be one of them. And a lot of people actually somewhat recently asked, why do you say that? One, because they started absolutely killing online sales. Two, they still do like a really good job of keeping prices like extremely low and are able to keep them low over time. And three, just because overall they're just one of the companies that haven't been struggling as extremely as some of the other ones. And they're really, really figuring out like the instant delivery thing, the online shopping, just kind of all across the board. They're doing pretty well with the evolving retail shopping. But anyways, moving on to the next one, Visa. I like Visa. If you're going to own a financial stock, I think Visa is not a bad pick. I mean, if you're looking at some of the big ones like MasterCard, Visa, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Berkshire, some of those big financial companies out there, I think Visa is a good choice as well. Really solid, huge company. Not a really great dividend yield on them though. After that is Vanguard Total Bond Market. So I personally wouldn't invest in an ETF like this just because simply I feel as if you could just invest in the S&P and still do as good if you're holding over time. I feel as if it's just not needed to hold an ETF like this, like I just said, for the reason I just said, I guess, because you could just invest in the S&P, right? I don't know if it's just my investing strategy because of that, but this is pretty much invest totally in US bonds. So those aren't going to get you a very great return every single year, but it will get you a consistent return. So I guess people's argument for this is, well, if the S&P is down 10% on the year, the bond market could still be up 2%. But I guess that is a decent argument. But at the same time, the S&P is probably going to go back up. But anyways, after that is United Technologies Corporation. United Tech, I don't feel terrible about investing in a company like this. If you're unfamiliar with them, you probably wouldn't recognize the name right away, but they do some sort of aerospace stuff, some HVAC stuff. They do a lot of stuff that's like more industrial based as well as aerospace defense. And I could see investing in a company like this, especially recently with Boeing kind of being questionable, because beforehand Boeing was always my go-to for industrials, and then before that I guess a lot of people could say GE, General Electric, was their go-to for a company in that sector, but now their choices are kind of thinning out a little bit, so I could, I don't feel terrible about investing in a company like that. After that's Union Pacific. Union Pacific, again, he's kind of going for, I'm questioning if this person's actually older, because it's actually a railroad company, so I feel like when I see companies like this, it's usually people who are a little bit older investing in companies like this, so I wonder, but I actually have no idea how old the person is who sent this in. But again, these are two, a lot of very safe companies here with the bonds, the S&P 500 ETF, Union Pacific, United Tech, and then also Texas Instruments. This, again, another pretty safe company, good dividend yield company that's actually been performing pretty solid over the past few years or so. So a lot of, so far, really solid companies in his portfolio. After that is going to be Target. Target, again, similar to my thoughts on Walmart, I think they are a company that actually has been doing well during the past few years when a lot of other retail stocks aren't doing so well. I actually think they're one that has come out of it so far and will continue to actually do pretty decent because of a lot of the same reason Walmart's actually doing pretty decent. And they actually do a really great job at targeting millennials. I hate to say it, but after that is McDonald's. McDonald's, another really solid blue chip stock here, good solid dividend yield, one that's going to be around forever. After that's Home Depot. Home Depot, another one that I actually regret not investing in a while back. It was a stock that was on my radar that I was super close to just buying a ton of shares of and didn't. Totally made a mistake there, but either way, Home Depot, solid company. I still like them a lot. After that's Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer. I actually own both of those two companies, Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer, and both of those solid healthcare stocks. Those are two I invest in. I literally just said that, didn't I? But either way, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, both companies I like a lot. Really solid if you're looking for companies in the healthcare sector, because I see a lot of people target somewhat risky and speculative companies, I feel like, when they're starting in these portfolios. So if I personally was investing again, starting over, those would probably be two on my list. After that's AT&T. I really like AT&T also. They're at a really good buying point not too long ago. I still actually think they're at a pretty decent one right now. Really, really high dividend yield. I think it's around 7% or something like that. Oh no, it's actually a little bit lower if M1 Finance is correct, but either way, almost a 6% dividend yield on a $250 billion company, and this isn't some crappy REIT or something like that. This is a legit company. After that is Microsoft. Microsoft again, and Apple and Amazon actually, because I talked about them in the previous portfolio. All solid tech-based stocks, really solid. You can't go wrong there. And then the last one right here is Boeing that I haven't talked about yet. Boeing's one that's actually been struggling quite a bit somewhat recently. If we go to the year chart, it doesn't show it too well, but maybe like the 3-year, 5-year showed a little bit better. I think the 3-year shows are pretty decent. Like they're somewhat downtrending over the past like probably year and a half, or probably not that long actually, year to half year or so, because there's been a ton of negative news surrounding Boeing, and take that as you may. But anyways, looking at both of these portfolios, I actually think this is one of the few what's in your portfolio videos where I actually like both of these portfolios. Both of these portfolios are full of like really solid big companies. They're not doing a whole lot of speculation. They're not doing a whole lot of like just investing in crappy stocks because they have high dividends or something like that. Like overall, I actually like both of these portfolios and pretty genuinely like them. But other than that, guys, that's really it for this video. If you enjoyed it, definitely consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel if you are not yet subscribed. And if you're interested in stuff like investing, the stock market, personal finance, entrepreneurship, I talk about all that kind of stuff on this channel. So definitely consider joining in on the community. And also, if you're new to the series, like I said before, there'll be notes in the description on how to send in your portfolio. It's pretty easy. All you gotta do is send a link to it or a screenshot or something like that. And it is best if you actually email me, because it turns out that's a lot easier to do when you email it. But you can also feel free to DM it to me on Instagram or Twitter. And also, the app that I was using today and showing you guys is called M1 Finance. M1 Finance is actually a free to use brokerage that allows you to do fractional shares. It also allows to do what I was doing during the video, like using their Pi feature, which basically allows you to make your own fund. It's a super awesome app. I personally use it and I like it a lot. And if you use the link in the description and sign up and fund your account, you get $20. But other than that, guys, that's really it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed.